Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, coming at you with another video. If you've watched my previous video, you'll know that I've recently been running a World of Darkness game using the Fate Accelerated system. Now, whilst I was running that, I was doing it only with multiple protagonists, but I was thinking whilst I was running it, what are the chances and what would I need in order to run a game with supernatural protagonists? The vampires, the werewolves, the Prometheans, the Geists, the mages, whatever protagonist you choose to use. The fact is that an awful lot of the games feature supernaturals. Now, this led me to thinking about whether sometimes in RPGs we unnecessarily overcomplicate things. And I'm as guilty of this as anyone. My initial thought when I first started thinking about how I'd adapt, say, vampires, for instance, as the iconic monster of the World of Darkness, to Fate Accelerated, was to dive straight in and start coming up with lots of rule systems for how feeding would work, how blood would be used to power certain vampiric abilities. But recently, I really enjoyed the simplicity of the rules and how little they interfered with the narrative in my God Machine Chronicle game. And this led me to thinking, is there a far simpler way of representing supernaturals in a sort of World of Darkness modern horror setting using the Fate system? And I came to the conclusion that yes, there probably is. We already have a great tool for enforcing behaviour, since most of the supernaturals in the World of Darkness have some form of flaw. It's often a flaw you may find in human protagonists, but exaggerated and taken to the nth degree. The vampire portrayed as the blood junkie, for an easy example. The werewolf who struggles to keep a grasp on his spirituality and not lose himself to his violent primeval rages is another. Or the mage who strives ever for enlightenment but has to risk the hubris that comes with that great power. So what would be the best and, well, the simplest way of representing this? And I think we have one very, very useful tool in the Fate arsenal to deal with this, and that is compels. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Fate, a compel is simply the games master or yourself or another player offering you a fate point in order for a complication to arise out of one of your aspects. So, for instance, let's say I have an aspect of wanted by the law. I'm passing through a town in disguise. The GM might offer me a fate point and say, someone's recognised you and they have called the police. If I accept that fate point, then that scene unfolds as the GM has described, and we play it out with the complications that result from that. If I don't want to accept it, I not only don't get that additional fate point, but I have to pay a fate point to avoid it. However, it's not only the GM who can lay down compels like this on yourself. If I'm running a little low on fate points and I think that later on there's going to be a serious scene coming up where I might need some fate points, I might suggest this myself in the hope of earning myself a cheeky fate point off the GM, which I can use later, and also generating some more interesting plot that involves my character. And the fate system very much encourages this fate economy, as it's called. You should always be spending and accumulating fate points and keeping a turnover going rather than trying to hoard them away. So how could compels be used in a World of Darkness modern horror situation? Extremely easily is the glib and quick answer. To give you a more detailed answer, what I'd suggest is that if you were creating a vampire in, let's say, Fate Accelerated, you'd have an aspect, presumably, that would sum up your vampiric nature. So whether that's something descriptive like thirst for the blood of the innocent, or simply creature of the night, or whatever, that can easily be compelled by the GM or yourselves. So for instance, rather than me tracking exactly how much blood I have and chalking off a little bit of blood, spending a blood point, or it causing me stress when I use a particular vampiric power, what if we just push all that to one side? I have my vampiric powers as stunts, maybe a little bit more powerful than normal stunts to represent the whole vampiric flavour, However, the GM, when I use a lot of these vampiric stunts, would start compelling me more using my aspect of thirsty for the blood of innocence. So if I've been using a lot of vampiric powers in a scene, the next time I come across a mortal, the GM may offer me a fate point and say, you're feeling particularly hungry. As you look at the young person moving across the square in front of you, you notice the gentle rhythmic pulsing of a vein in the side of their neck, and you feel your finger tapping out a similar rhythm on the wall that you stand behind. She's not spotted you yet standing in the shadows, and you lick your lips as you feel your fangs slowly begin to descend as you feel yourself drawn towards the lifeblood coursing through her veins. Now, if I take that fate chip, which if it was me I probably would, and I'd encourage anyone who's playing fate to keep that role of that fate economy going, since the GM's unlikely to just slap you down with something entirely bad. It's not an opportunity to punish you, it's an opportunity to extend the plot and get some interesting roleplay. So I'd probably take that fate point, and then I may feed on the woman or the young person and receive a fate point for it, and whatever complications as a result occur of that. And that's all without any particular extra rules for blood points or how many times a day I need to feed or any of that other complicated stuff, but it still preserves the essence of that supernatural, of being that vampire. The fact that when you use your abilities, you need to feed. When you see someone and you feel that blood moving through their veins, you're drawn to it. You are a bloodthirsty fiend. And that's very much the core, part of the core of the game. Obviously, there's other things to the game, such as waning humanity and trying to preserve yourself against the ravages of this bloodthirsty side of you that becoming a vampire unleashes. However, a lot of that can be dealt with descriptively by using compels, by using aspects, by using stunts, all of the mechanics that are already present in the Fate game. A lot of this stuff, although it's tempting to create a lot of new rules for it, when you get down to it, doesn't really need it. As long as you preserve the core idea of what it's about, you can get along quite fine and run quite an interesting game with the system as is. And I'd advise anyone running any sort of horror game, have a quick look at the Fate Toolkit. That's got some good advice for running horror games in. And then first, before you start making any alterations, try having a little thinking, can I do this with the basic system? And I think a lot of the time you'll find yourself coming up with the answer that yes, I can. There's no need to make it more complicated than I have to. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and that if you have, you'll consider clicking on the subscribe and like buttons below. If you have any comments on the World of Darkness, on any of the various supernaturals, on using Fate Accelerated in the World of Darkness, on compels or any other aspects of the Fate system, please leave your comments below. And until I see you next time, I look forward to reading what you write. Thanks very much for watching.